Here's how I trained my horse to be able to ride with a neck rope. This is actually a savvy string off of one of our Pirelli carrot sticks. Oh, she said Pirelli, gotta click off the video now. Listen, I didn't say I do Pirelli. He used to be good, he's not anymore. He used to practice what he preaches. He doesn't even preach what he used to preach. So, getting out of that slimy hole, this actually works really well as a neck rope, if you happen to have a Pirelli carrot stick. But anyways, let's get into how I trained Stella how to ride with a neck rope. Just like with any progression of training, you have to be able to back up your cue with something that you know your horse knows the answer to. It's just like one of Warwick Striller's principles, where he talks about how the horse has to know the answer before you ask the question. And I know that sounds confusing, like, well, you have to train the horse to know the answer, so how would they know the answer before you teach them the answer? I know it sounds really confusing, but I highly recommend you dive down the hole of Warwick Striller because it's very mind expanding. So there's a progression and there's stages in what you have to take to be able to get to this point. And it starts with the easiest method of directing your horse, and that's with the direct rein, which is the most common way of steering a horse. And that's just with pointing your hand and having your horse release to that pressure. And once you have a horse that's easy in the direct rein and is very soft in the head and will turn whenever you put pressure on their head, that's when you can go to the next step, which is teaching them to move off of your leg. And we do this by applying leg pressure and following through with something they know with the direct rein. So we start with applying leg pressure. They don't know what this pressure means yet, so we'll follow through with something they do know so that they get the idea that this means that way, or this pressure means go this way. And obviously there are other cues that we use with our seats that we have to follow through with our reins to teach them what this cue means, like whoa, and obviously the squeeze to go forward. So it's much easier for horses to learn something when you have something else that they know how to do that you can follow through with. But when you first start teaching your horse leg pressure and you put pressure on their side, they don't know what that means, but they know what the direct rein means. So you do the pressure first, use your direct rein because they know what that means, and then you release both things. They go, oh, that's what that means. And after a while of doing that in the right order, you're not even gonna have to use the reins because they know this pressure means go this way, or this pressure means go this way. And something I've taught Stella kind of accidentally, it was kind of like a bareback thing that I would do, and now I just do it with my saddle, and I don't really see anybody else doing it, but is when I ask her to back up, I swing my legs like this. And she knows that is back up, so that's my backup aid with my legs. So once we have our seat aids down, our back up and our go forward and our this way and our that way, it's going to be much easier to be able to ride at liberty, but your horse still doesn't know what this pressure on the neck is. So now is when we teach neck reining, because teaching them to move off the pressure of their neck is obviously going to help a lot for teaching them how to respond to the neck rope. So if we want to move this way, we put pressure on this side of the bridle and back it up with our leg to move that way. Good girl. And you might be wondering why I have a whip, and it's definitely not for the reasons you think it is. I don't actually use a whip for the intended purpose, but it helps a lot with, for one, keeping bugs off my horse, and for two, it's a helpful safety tool to be able to have when I ride at liberty, because I can back up my neck rope aids with this. Because I've taught Stella that the whip is more of a directing tool and not as much of a go faster tool, if you know what I mean. So the way I use it is there's level 1, level 2, level 3. So level 1 is just holding it there. Level 2 is swinging it a little bit. And level 3 is actually tapping it. And that's just so I don't have to hit her with it, because she knows that this just means move off of it, because if she doesn't, then I'll start tapping her. So if I'm riding Stella with a neck rope and I need some backup reinforcement because she's not responding to the pressure on the neck, I will use this to move the hindquarters. Good girl. And I can swing it by her ear. Good. Good. I also back it up with my leg pressure. And I just like to use the whip as like a safety backup tool when I'm riding liberty because, well, for one, I don't have any fencing in my arena right now, so a little bit dangerous. And two, I just like to know that I have control if suddenly this doesn't work for me anymore. But finally, after all of those steps, we can finally teach her to move off of the pressure of the neck rope, because she should be able to move off of pressure on her neck now from teaching her how to neck rein, and we should be able to back up our aids with our seat because she knows that aid now. Plus, if you're like me, you have a little safety tool on hand. So we should be able to take off our bridle after doing all that work. We should be able to back up. Good. Move this way. Good. Back up. Back up. Good. But because she already knows how to ride off of my seat, I'm going to use that as my main source and only use the savvy string to back up my seat aid. Just because I don't want to have to be putting a lot of pressure on the savvy string a lot and, you know, yanking it around. I want quiet hands, which means mostly seat. So if I want to turn this way, I'll use leg first, then the savvy string, and then I'll follow through with the whip. So you have to remember that horses learn from release of pressure, so your timing is everything. Because when you ask a horse to do something, you're making them uncomfortable. You're either squeezing with your legs, pulling on the bit, doing something that puts pressure on them, which is slightly uncomfortable for them. So they're looking for a way to get out of that pressure, and that is what we want. We want them to look to get out of the pressure, and then once they do the right thing, we release the pressure, and they're like, oh, that's the right thing. But if we have bad timing, and we're asking our horse to do something, we're putting pressure on them, and they do the right thing, but we continue to hold that pressure on them, they go, oh, that's not the right thing, I have to try something else because that didn't release the pressure. So in order to not confuse our horses and to be consistent, timing is everything, and you have to learn to release your pressure as soon as you get the slightest results that you're looking for. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're definitely not gonna be picky here because as soon as the horse does something slightly in the right direction, we need to release because we need to teach them that yes, that is the right direction. And before I get people coming in the comments and saying, I could never do this with my horse because she bucks or bolts or blah, blah, blah. Or how would I do this with my horse because she likes to buck or bolt or... I get those questions a lot and they're kind of funny. But if you at all have any doubts in your mind that your horse may buck you off or bolt with you or be like freedom and take off, then don't do it. If you at all have that thought in your head that that could happen, then don't do it. If you are not confident with the foundation that you've built your horse on, then do not do something that you think will end in a bad situation. This is only something you do with the horse that you really trust and you've gone through the stages with and you know that you are going to have good results. And obviously only try this in a fenced-in arena because that would be smart. Just set yourself up for success, and if you think anything else might happen other than success, then just keep working on it because there's no rush. Just take your time and don't force something that your horse is not ready for because there's no deadline. You have all the time in the world. There's no reason you need to ride your horse bridleless tomorrow instead of in a week or in a week instead of a month. It's definitely important to take your time and not rush your horse into something that they are not comfortable in or you're not comfortable in because if there is any fear or doubt in either of you, that could lead into some disasters. So I have actually noticed quite a lot of benefits from riding Stella bridleless. And one of those things is taking more control and being more forward, which helps her become more round and has a deeper reach and better top line. And she just feels like a dressage horse sometimes when I'm riding her bridleless, which is awesome. And it's so good for her to be able to feel that comfortable and to be able to stretch like that, which she doesn't always feel that confidence when she's got a bridle on, and it makes her feel like she doesn't have as much control. And another thing that's just great to do while you're riding bridleless is to just let your horse go where they want. If you want to ask them to run or something, just let them do the steering and just be a passenger because that really gives them the feeling of being in control. And it's not always a dangerous thing or bad to let your horse have some control. It actually helps them to be more present because then they don't feel like they have to get away to have control, and they feel like they can be in control while they're with you, which makes them more confident. And a more confident horse is a safer horse. So I hope you learned something from this video, and I hope I inspired you to train your horse how to ride in a neck rein because it's fun. But again, proceed with caution if you do not think that your horse is ready for this, or you think that there might be a possibility of them bucking or bolting with you, then do not proceed to try to go forward with doing this. And honestly, if your horse has an issue with bucking or bolting, those are both pain-related responses, or it could be a training issue if they do not feel confident around you, if they have a lot of fear around you, if they don't respect you and they don't trust that you'll keep them safe, then they're going to be a little bit more uptight. If they are buddy sour, they're going to have much more reactiveness because they aren't actually being present, they're just thinking about being with their buddy. So definitely, if you have those issues, do some digging into why you are having those issues with your horse. Make sure they're not pain related, make sure it's not saddle fitting issue related. There's a lot of evidence and proof that a ill-fitting saddle will cause poor behavior in a horse because it's a pain response. So make sure your saddle is not causing any issues. Just go back to the beginning and just work your way up and just try to find where the root cause of the problem is. There are a lot of sources you can go to online if you need help with training or even saddle fitting. I highly recommend checking out Warwick's Chiller, and Saddle Fit for Life is a great source to learn about saddle fitting more. Equitopia is a YouTube channel that has a lot of helpful information about saddle fitting. There are a lot of things that can cause a horse to act poorly. Just don't blame the horse. I can't just do this with my horse because I have a really good horse.
You can do that with your horse because you have a really good horse. Oh, your horse must be so good.
Yes, I know my horse is really good, but I believe this very strongly that every horse has the ability to be able to do this and to be this chill. Doesn't matter their breeding or their bloodlines or their previous training. Obviously, some things will make it harder for you to train a horse to be able to do this, but I honestly believe that every horse has this ability. So don't just brush it off that it's your horse's fault or your horse will never be able to do this because blah, blah, blah. That's not the case. And yeah. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give a big like and subscribe. Don't forget to go follow me on Instagram and TikTok, and I'll see you guys next week, Sunday. Bye. Good girl.